Today we're going to finish up adding controllers, or fixing the controller support in Simply Chess. That is the plan. It should fix some regressions for all of our games, actually. Controller support probably regressed in a bunch of them. Actually, it looks like the things that remain, only one of them is going to affect the other games, ideally. So we'll see about that. Okay, so there's no cursor in 2D. This dialog doesn't have the controls yet. And I don't need this headset because I can't listen to music while I do this anyway and talk. It's very confusing. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is this 2D GamePad support. The 2D mode just really doesn't have a good way to do that yet. So I'm going to figure out how we're moving the cursor around with the keyboard. Because if you run Simply Chess and poke around with the keyboard in 2D, it does move the cursor. I should run Steam. Alrighty, let's do this. Snark. Man, the camera's frozen again. It's back here. Okay. So first things first, move around the cursor. It's moving this mouse. So I want to find out what's doing that. So it's numpad 4, for example. Process keyboard cursor movement. So good news is this is up in the game common or board game common level, so once we fix this it should fix for any other 2D. So for example, Versi should get, I don't know, yeah, Versi is a 2D mode. It should get this gamepad support fixed as well automatically. Where's my music back up? Oh yeah, I had it up so I could debug the music. Board game controller. If the input mode is gamepad. So this is what the difference is here. Whoop, 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 whoop. Boom. Whoa, if that's all I needed was that one line, then this is going to be almost so easy. I'm feeling guilty.
Not enough energy.
board game controller. So
not enough energy.
Squarespace. It was a direction. Okay, yeah, so well, we're gonna have to do something pretty similar to what we did with the keyboard stuff with the GamePad. So here we'll say must be running in 2D view, handle it according to the space type, square, x, etc. Because directions actually mean something different for all the space types. Place mouse at cursor location. So it's basically, we'll need this stuff. But that processes keyboard cursor movement. We need like process gamepad cursor movement. Oops. And so we'll have to implement that for Squarespace and Hexspace separately. So that really needs to be moved. Okay. Okay, so there's two here. There's Hexspace and Squarespace. We gotta implement one for both of them, one for each of them. Just read my docs. Turns a coordinate after gamepad movement from the gamepad helper. Cursor is not moved, null is returned. Okay. The cursor system might not be desirable for the game. Also, it's by default. This uses the D-pad. Cursor. Use the D-pad for moving the cursor. I'm not convinced we just want the D-pad. We might also want to allow analog sticks. that's another something in the comments so that we don't regress it. It's easy to, I don't know why board cord 2D would not be processing there, but it's easy to, whoops, that's why, you know, to cut features if you're in a rush and you just want to push out a fix or something like that. If you don't know why it's there, why it's so important, if you think it's just like, oh, you know, it's some support for GamePads, and like maybe we'll do a release someday that doesn't need to work with SteamOS or something, but it's important that the support's still in there for accessibility reasons. I mentioned a little bit yesterday, a lot of people have custom controls if they can't use a classic keyboard and mouse. They'll have custom controllers that do work with their hands or with whatever else they play with, and they just, those custom controllers are remapped, because you can remap the buttons that these send out, can be remapped from pretty much any controller, and there's a lot of people out there who make these devices with the remapping, and it does great things for accessibility. So to be able to support those devices, we need to get this GamePad stuff working. And we're going to do that today. Hopefully before I have to take off to pick up my daughter from daycare, but hopefully we can finish this, or at least this one chunk of it before then. So, okay, so we're going to find everywhere that uses D-pad left. No, guess not. So it's probably more ideal to allow the analog thumbsticks also. So the right one's already used for the camera. I don't think we use the left one for anything, so we might as well just hook that analog pad up, or analog stick up, so that, for example, left is numpad 4. Right? Left thumbstick, left D-pad, left. I think it is parameter. Boom. So we move left. So that's awesome. All right, I'm just gonna rewrite all that. We'll be good to go. 6 is right. H should be up. Down. I'm not sure how diagonals are handled. I'm about to find out though. Okay, so above and left, for example. I wonder, left thumbstick. Yeah, there's not like a diagonal for thumbsticks. And the D-pad, I don't think. Yep, doesn't exist for the D-pad either. So we're just gonna have the 4 directions of movement, which is probably fine. It's gonna be a little more problematic for hex games. I can probably just put filler in for the hex games so that I can test it. And it'll throw like an error next time I test it. Okay, so we've implemented it for by default, so it just does use the E-pad. There's no configuration there, and I don't think anyone will need to override this. So, another thing we should be doing here is finding the hex space implementation. This is probably a board game common. Yep. Weak sauce, I didn't copy the comment. Okay, so in hex, hex spaces where you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, so we didn't have like 4 and 6 even used in hex. This is going to be awful. So what I'm going to do is say if it's in debug, throw new not implemented exception. For hex spaces. So what's going to happen is this will always there'll always be no movement on hex spaces for now, and it'll just throw new not implemented exception. So that means basically next time I test GamePads on Hive, I'll get this exception if I'm doing it in debug mode, and nobody else should see that. If this gets into production, it'll just return no, which, as the comment mentioned, will say that nothing's been modified. Don't move the cursor. So this is the code that we wrote, and we're going to test it out. I mean, that's kind of a big batch of changes to assume that it would just work. So we need this wrapper that dispatches it to the square spaces based on the type. Okay, so it looks like keyboard and GamePad have just been straight out commented out for hex spaces. Oops, it's not process keyboard, it should be process game. Alright. So,
Not enough energy.
Soon, we'll be there soon. Alright. What are they saying the issue is? Does not implement interface member. Process GamePad cursor movement. Dude, I kind of think it does. Oh, yeah, too many E's in there. Is the issue. Alright, so we're going to see if our GamePad support works now. So keyboard support works. GamePad support not cutting it. So I'd like to assume we got into this code. Thumbstick movements significant. So this, if the primary camera is null, so within 3D mode you're allowed to mutate it, because we don't need the thumbstick movement to be significant for the 2D stuff to take effect. So what we really want to say is if in 2D mode use the D-pad and left thumbstick to move the cursor. And move the wand accordingly. So that's the code moving the wand. So if the camera is null, presumably this also moves the right thumbstick. Movement thumbstick. Movement thumbstick. I don't remember which one the movement thumbstick is. Left thumbstick. Yeah, we should be using the movement thumbstick in process GamePad cursor movement too. So we'll go here. Man. So what we're going to do here is create just assign some variables so that we can use the directions based off of which thumbstick is the movement thumbstick. That allows remapping too, which is also important, even though we don't have a great way to change that yet. You can change it by default in Xbox's panels. I don't know if you can do it in Steam yet, but probably not. That's stupid. All right, we don't need a button. So we want to say if the GamePad movement thumbstick equals thumbstick dot left, which should be by default, right? Thumb up, thumb down, thumb left, thumb right. least just be thumbstick. Let's not be lazy. Okay. Okay. Alright, so now we're going to replace all of these calls to left thumbstick with thumbstick up, because it's the movement thumbstick that matters, regardless of whether it's the left or right thumbstick. And you know, remapping could be done later. Thumbstick down, and we want to be supporting that. Up, right, down, left. Right, down, left. Okay. And then we should copy this stuff over to the hex space so that even though it's just comment, it's the reference code that we're going to use when we do implement the hex stuff. I want to make sure that is also, oops, supporting the movement thumbstick remapping. Okay. We're just going to move. This stuff is really all 3D. It's both the thumbsticks. It's this moving the camera, the wand, and all that stuff. Presumably. So I want to make sure we at least get into the right code. And then see if that works. Yeah, guess not. We need a better way to check for 2D versus 3D. Because yeah, there's this artificial bounding sphere camera anyway. Okay. Huh. Oh, these are static. Can't override the static. So now I have this problem where I want to be able to tell if the game is 2D or 3D or not. And right now, all of that's at the game level, like the specific game level. So chess knows if it's 2D or 3D, and Reversi knows if it's 2D or 3D. But the game common code that they both share doesn't have a way to access that. And right now, it's computed by literally looking at the game screen and seeing if the board view is a 3D board view or not of that game type. Has a bounding sphere, the 2D board view. It doesn't have a bounding sphere. We're going to see if we can get the game screen regardless. Well, we'll see now if we can really do this. If this is a reliable way to tell if the game is 2D or 3D. By checking if the screen is a bounding sphere. That's stupid. I think I want the screen's board view. Which is probably not defined in. Oh. Oh. Yeah. We can get the game screen. We don't need to know what type it is, right? We can just make a requirement that game screen, chess game screen is a board game screen, and that is a game screen, and game screen can say abstract public bool is 3D. By default, we're going to assume that the only dimensions are 2 and 3. You can override that if needed. We're going to make it virtual in case you have a 4-dimensional or 1-dimensional game. Although it's not likely I would represent those on a 2D monitor. True. All right. I could force games to implement this anyway. find a default to assuming that there's 3D. Nah, I'm just going to force them all to do it. But it's such a reasonable default. Alright. I'm just going to force them to do it. It's asking for too many problems, otherwise each game can just deal with that. Okay, so for this one, we'll just use chess game screen dot is 3D. Inconsistent capitalization. Uncool. I don't know what's going on there, so I'm just gonna do the old fashioned. Okay, so now every game we'll have to do this. So it's clear that these aren't the real functions or the real methods, they're just wrappers to be part of the game screen. Okay, and then the other game that's going to need that exact treatment is Reversey, because it has 2D also. Reversey game screen is in here. Oh. Right, so that should be legit. Now we're gonna have to go into the game screens for Ket and Hive and just make, you know, flat out, like static returns. So, is 3D true? Is 2D false? Because it's a 3D game. Only. We do not have 2D views there, and same with Hive. Something we added for Reversey and Simply Chess. Okay, so now where were we using this stuff? This was in okay, never mind. Game. Oh, this templating is really cool, but sometimes leads to some really ugly casting. Yeah. Okay, now that should be really straightforward. It should function as we want. Now it seems a little more dependable.
Not enough energy.
That if we can build. I thought we put this requirement on game screen. We did. What is this saying? Abstract class. Alright. I guess we're going back to virtual. Fair enough. So, technically I haven't kept it in them, but whatever.
Not enough energy.
Maybe we'll build successfully this time.
Not enough energy.
Yeah, already defined it, sure, but it was virtual, so I'm overwriting it. Chess game screen already calls this. Am I at one stack, one's not? I guess not. Great dog is what just okay.
Not enough energy.
Okay. This is going to be annoying. I can't even refactor it because it was refactoring the static ones at the same time. So now we got to go to reverse hive and cat again. Reverse cat and hive.
Not enough energy.
Sweet, it actually built. Okay. Where's that game controller? Okay, it's at least processing it. Oh yeah. 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 Switch sides. Oh, we had toggle. There we go. Toggle the 3D. Swap the skin. Swap the sides. Oh yeah. It's getting confused now. I just switched boards or switched sides a few times after I messed with it so much. Beat him. Okay. D-pad. Alright, well I don't even want to see that play out. Okay. Okay, so it looks like the 2D board view is functioning pretty well. I saw a little bug there after I switched the 3D and 2D a bunch of times and flipped sides. It got a little frazzled, but I'll bet that same error must apply to the mouse and keyboard, almost certainly. Okay, cool. So we did one more little part of it. It took longer than expected. We're now like over the estimated time here. So I'll up the estimate to 3 hours. But yeah, so all we have left is the AI level dialog, where you select the difficulty of the AI from 1 to 100, and some code that we wrote for chess that we need to make sure gets the other games. Just do that one first. It should be really fast. So what it is there's a fix that we did in the game settings screen in chess. Game settings menu screen. Show. First show, that's it. So on-enable changed in each of these game setting menu screens. So we just got to go straight down the list, Hive first. See, it doesn't do it either. It doesn't matter if it's first show or not, I guess, or if it's being made visible or not. It's probably safer to put it in there, actually. I'm going to change this in chess to make sure that the change does what we expect. So I just noticed that we hover the first item in the game setting menu screen, the first time on-enable change is called. I just want to make sure that we only try that when we're actually showing it, otherwise there might not be anything to select. Okay, this works. So this is just potentially academic fix, but in theory you can get on-enabled change. You get a screen to become disenabled before it was ever enabled. Then that would be bad to start selecting the items then, because they wouldn't be ready. Just select it all the way through there. There, so it's now in Hive. Cat should go into reversing as well. It might have actually, no, it didn't come from there. Okay, on enable. So what might be wrong there?
Not enough energy.
Oh, yeah, I didn't take off. I was supposed to take off that bracket too. I had too many closed braces going on there. All right, make sure that the cat and Hive also rebuild. Perfect. Alright, and it's about time for me to commit some of this. Whoa. Okay, those are the fixes. I just got the fixes from Jeff. He made the default 3D board view have better contrast on it. Sure, nothing's changing here except for stuff I didn't want to commit. Yeah, that's not done yet. I did a bunch of other stuff that I'm not ready to commit yet for animations. There's some memory leaks. Unfortunately, this one was a refactor. Well, I'm just going to commit these and keep rolling with them some more, probably. This one is totally logging only. Okay, so in this commit, we did way more than we should have in one. Remove some There's some memory leaks. The online game menu screen, I streamed that right before this, a couple hours ago. The animation system. There's still more there, though, for sure. Positive of that. Made sure that should fix GamePad support in game settings menu screens of hide, get, and reversey. Simply chess was and the big point of this was to make work in 2D views. Yeah, this might actually work in reversey too. We might as well give that a try. That would be fantastic. Yep, the game settings support works there too. So, what did I override? Left trigger in debug mode. Okay. Yep, GamePad support works in reversey now too. And that is one of the great things about sharing an engine across your games. I fixed the bug for Simply Chess, and now we have GamePad support working again for reversey. So that'll go out on the next update there. Awesome. Okay, so that was a rather huge commit. A lot of fixes. I'm about to get out of here shortly. Alright, thanks for joining me. I might come back later tonight to do this one remaining controller support fix, and that's to make the AI level dialogue in Simply Chess work with GamePad, and ideally keypad if it doesn't while I'm in there.